In this video, I'll show you how to perform an aerobic endurance critical force test, which will let you get detailed insight into your climbing performance. I'll also explain how to interpret the results so you can see how easy it is. To perform the critical force measurement, I'm going to use the Frez app, which is a powerful system for rock climbing performance testing. It's also perfectly compatible with the Tindeq progressor, so if you already have a Tindeq, you can give Frez a go. When you're climbing, after each move your finger strength decreases as you get tired. But at one point, it will reach steady state. It will not decay anymore as your forearm muscles switch to the aerobic energy system. That's what we call critical force. The critical force is a crucial parameter describing your climbing endurance, and knowing it will let you design your training programs to optimize gains and performance. To start the critical force measurement, open Frez, go to Grips, and press the plus sign to add another test. Select critical force, input the test name, and input the number of reps. The default value for such tests would be 24 7-second reps, and the test would last 4 minutes. But we know from research and testing experience that such a test is too short to accurately measure aerobic endurance. In many cases, after 24 pulls, the critical force is not reached, and such a measurement may lead to false conclusions. So what I love about Frez is that it gives me the flexibility to set a custom number of reps. This way, I can get the full information about my endurance profile. Next, choose which hand you're going to test and input your body weight, which will allow the app to calculate the critical force to body weight relationship. Now you're ready to start the test. The test will take a good few minutes of all-out effort, so make sure that you're properly warmed up and ready to give it your all. You should also be well rested, so giving yourself 2 or 3 recovery days before testing is necessary. Otherwise, your results will be inaccurate and you may draw false conclusions, which could derail your training program. The free version of the Frez app offers some simple functionalities, including basic repeaters, but you can use the promo code in the video description to try the powerful premium version free for 14 days. Once you're finally ready, take a few deep breaths and start pulling. The test will only begin when you start generating force. I'm performing the test in the active curls mode, so I'm trying to isolate my fingers by curling them against the edge rather than pulling passively with my back. You can see that with each rep, I'm not only trying to curl my fingers as hard as possible, but I'm also paying attention to generate the force as quickly as I can. In Frez, the critical force test is coupled with the rate of force development measurement, also known as RFD. This is excellent because RFD is closely related with fatigue, and such a test can give us additional insight into our climbing performance, especially if we need to push through dynamic cruxes high on the route. In each rep, the measurement is triggered only when you start pulling, so you don't need to stress about following the 7-second, 3-second pattern precisely. Instead, the measurement follows your pulling rhythm. After a few pulls, you can already observe an endurance curve forming on the live preview. At the same time, the dashed line marking the current value of critical force is displayed. And that's all there is to it. Now all you have to do is give it your all and endure the test until the curve flattens and the constant pulling force is reached. Almost there. Just one final pull. For science! Okay, done. Just look at this beautiful curve. It's smooth with no signs of pacing. It's also clear that it took me much longer than 24 pulls to reach critical force. In fact, after 24 pulls, the measured CF value was 25 kilograms. My 10-minute CF, which is aerobic, is roughly 70% of my 4-minute all-out test pull force. That's why in my endurance programs, I typically advise training at 60% of the pull force measured with the 4-minute test for developing aerobic endurance and training at 70 to 80% of the 4-minute value for developing anaerobic endurance. Notice that under the critical force plot, the RFD plot is displayed. The RFD decays much sooner than the pulling force, making it a better predictor of fatigue. In fact, the most likely reason why you keep falling on the end cracks of a longer route, other than climbing sloppily, is not because you can't produce sufficient force with your fingers, but because you're not able to generate it quickly enough. I'll cover this topic extensively in my next video. Now let's briefly go through my results analysis. 25 kilograms, my 4-minute anaerobic critical force is around 37.5% of my body weight. That's a good result, typical of 7B to 8A climbers. On paper, my anaerobic endurance is quite okay. You can see that in my case, a constant pull force is reached only after about 400 seconds. In many cases, tested climbers reach critical force as soon as 100 to 150 seconds. That's a clear sign of poor anaerobic endurance. As for my aerobic endurance at 17.7 kilograms, my 10-minute critical force is about 26% of my body weight. I think that's okay, but I haven't seen anyone except me take a 10-minute test yet, so I have no comparative data. If you're willing to take on the challenge, please share the results with me and I'll help you with the interpretation. For running the test, you can either use Frez or perform it with the Tindeq app and use the trick I showed in my earlier video. This way you can also obtain a very nice curve like the one I got a few months before. I can now overlay the results and, unfortunately, I see that before the result was a little bit better with my 10-minute critical force at slightly over 20 kilograms. I guess I need to rethink my personal approach to endurance training. Of course, Frez also calculates the energy store component W prime. If you're taking the 4-minute test, a W prime result below 1,500 kilogram seconds means that you'll likely benefit from anaerobic endurance training. Anything above 1,500 kilogram seconds means that you should consider shifting the balance of your training towards aerobic endurance. For the 10-minute test, the W prime value will be higher, and for the record, my result was 3,801 kilogram seconds. But to draw any conclusions, I need to have a bunch of similar results to compare it with. I hope that's helpful and that you'll have lots of fun testing your critical force with Frez. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out my other training videos.